Sarah, I'll start with you. The big question, why did Elon buy this stake?
Well, I think that he has hinted a bit at why in the past few days. Among his beefs with Twitter is that he thinks that they aren't doing well on free speech. Well, news to Elon, Twitter does not have a free speech commitment under the First Amendment. They are just a private company, but I do think that with this influence, with this power, even if it's a passive stake, he can exert some behind-the-scenes influence over Twitter. Now, we don't know exactly what he's going to do, but it might have something to do with their content moderation efforts.
Sarah, Katie, you worked at Twitter for almost 6 years until 2016, and you tweeted today, maybe pick up 9% of one of the top U.S. greenhouse gas emitters like Chevron or Exxon and accelerate their paths to clean energy. What is your initial reaction to Elon buying this stake?
Yeah, well, I think it's a very expensive way to get yourself an edit button. I think it's a very interesting move. Elon is obviously a power user. He knows the product well. He knows that Twitter is the place for the world's conversation. But for Twitter, I think it's really tricky in two ways. First, as Sarah mentions, it's really difficult. Elon has been very vocal about making Twitter an unfettered free speech platform. And this is part of the founding ethos of Twitter. But it's not an absolute, and it's really hard in social media. And we've seen the consequences of what happens when there's no accountability for when disinformation spreads. So it's complicated. And second, I think it's tricky because it becomes another distraction for the Twitter team. But I have full confidence in the Twitter team because they're used to all kinds of distractions. It's basically what we would have called a Monday.
So on that note, Twitter shares have languished for years despite all of this activity, President Trump on the platform, so many ups and downs. When you look at just what happens on Twitter on a daily basis, what do you make of the strategy that the current Twitter team is taking without Jack Dorsey there, under new leadership of Parag Agrawal, Ned Siegel, the CFO?
I'm a big fan. I think Jack has hired extremely well. I have worked side by side with Vijay Gadde, the chief legal officer, with Kayvon Bakepor, the chief product officer. They're excellent. They're excellent what they do. They're thoughtful. They're ethical. I didn't work as closely with Parag, but I know he's very well respected by the team. He's well prepared. He's been at Twitter for a long time. He's technical. He has led the engineering team. So I'm very bullish and I'm very confident that the Twitter team will continue to evolve and protect the platform.
Sarah, Elon Musk, the way that he disclosed this indicates that he's not intending to be very active or join the board. I mean, maybe he just wants an expensive edit button, as Katie is alluding to. But how active do we expect him to be, knowing that Elon Musk doesn't just sit back and let things happen?
Well, I think the most interesting thing will be any criticism he makes of Twitter now. Anything he says on Twitter about the company might move the stock. So we could be in for a few very volatile months ahead. There's also the question of whether Twitter will feel that they can moderate Elon Musk now. Should he violate the rules? Would they take down their biggest shareholder? That's a question I have. We're still waiting to hear if the company and Elon Musk have talked at all about this. I think that it's worth keeping in mind, though, with Twitter, what Katie just said. This is a company that has been through a lot of drama. The reason that Parag is CEO right now is because Jack Dorsey was looking into a succession plan under the activist activity by Elliott Management just in the last year or so. And this is a company without founder voting control. So it's unlike Facebook, unlike Google, unlike Amazon, unlike Snap. This is a company that is very vulnerable to takeovers, to M&A speculation, to activist investors, to all of that. So I think that Elon Musk, whatever he plans to do or even hints that he might do, we know how much people follow what he says on Twitter. Now it could actually move Twitter stock every time.
Katie, what is your take on his, potential opinion that maybe a new platform is needed? You're a venture capitalist now. You're placing bets on, what could be or what you believe will be the next big thing. Do you think there's room or opportunity for a new social platform?
I don't really think that the world needs another centralized social media platform. I think we have more urgent needs if it's climate change, if it's health innovations in healthcare and economic mobility. But I do think that there's a lot of room for improvement to make sure that the platforms that we connect on are healthier, that they're safer, and that we're doing a better job of reducing a lot of the toxicity and the hate that tends to spread uncontrolled on a lot of these platforms.
Jack Dorsey and Elon Musk, Sarah, have had some interaction on Twitter. When Elon posted that question about whether the Twitter algorithm should be open source, Jack responded saying the choice of which algorithm to use or not should be open to everyone. And then a few years ago, he actually said directly that he likes how Elon Musk uses Twitter, that he's focused on solving existential problems, sharing his thinking openly. I respect that a lot, all the ups and downs that come with it. And yet we haven't heard from Jack yet today. Sarah, what do you make of that?
I mean, I think it's almost like, did Elon go out of his way to defend his friend who's no longer CEO of Twitter? I mean, it seems like they have a bit of a friendly relationship, but it's unclear now what happens. It's also, there are a lot of liability issues now if there's some public discussion about what might happen next. It could move, like I said, move the stock, change things. And so I think everyone's just trying to be very careful about what they're going to say, if anything, about what happens next. And I'm really waiting to hear what Jack wants to do. He has talked about decentralization of social media. The other day, he actually tweeted that he regretted what he built. He regretted being a part of contributing to this very centralized viral media ecosystem. So I think that there's some soul searching that Jack Dorsey has done, and maybe Elon Musk has been a part of that, or at least listening as he tweets about it.
Katie, what do you make of that? I mean, what do you think Jack is thinking now?
I have no idea. Yeah, I have no idea what he's thinking. I'm a big Jack fan. I'm sure he's very thoughtful and thinking through what the future holds and what this new development may or may not, how it impacts the product and the team. But I have no idea what Jack is thinking.